So the HTML for the starter HTML is pretty simple. We just have an Ion pane, and inside that Ion pane we have a header bar and an Ion content area. So let's just take a look at that in the Chrome Developer Tools. So as I hover over it, you can see the Ion pane is just the full screen. Ion pane in Ionic doesn't really have much functionality. In fact, it just adds some CSS styling to the top level node. The header is, as you can guess, the actual header area, and the Ion content just takes up the rest of the space. Ion content is a pretty full-featured directive in Ionic applications. It comes with quite a lot of functionality, and we'll be covering some of that functionality while we're creating this application. So in our application, we actually don't need a header. So the first thing I'm going to do is to remove that header element. The next thing I'm going to do is just add our 8-ball logo. So I'm just going to add that with a normal image tag, and the source is image/8ball.png. And we need a place to actually put the messages for the user and just to give the predictions. So I'm just going to add a p tag underneath it. Next thing I want to do is just to add some styling, just to resize the size of the image and just give it kind of a black background. Now I've already added those styles to the styles.css, but they're all commented out. So let's just uncomment some of them now. First thing I want to do is I want to set the background color to black. The pane class applies to the Ion pane directive. So let's look at the inspect element really quickly so you can see. So Ion pane, when it loads, adds a class to itself called pane, and we've just set that to black. And next up, I want to start centering everything. I want to center it vertically and horizontally on the page. And since Ionic is only going to be used on modern browsers, we can use the CSS flexbox mechanism to center content. So there's quite a few CSS properties, but I've already created them and added them in the CSS file. So let's just copy and paste that out as well. And then let's add this class to the Ion content directive. Right, everything's centered nicely. Before we go any further though, I just want to show you something. So if we go into the inspect element, and let's render it as if it was on a phone. So I've just done iPhone 5. And then what you can see is that it's actually possible for me to scroll up and down on the Ion content on the application itself. This is a feature of the Ion content directive. It supports scrolling internally. But for our 8-ball application, we don't want it to scroll any of its content. So what we do is we just add an attribute of scroll is equal to false. And then you can see it switches off its internal scrolling and the application is just static. It won't scroll up or down. Last few styling issues. The 8-ball image is pretty big. I want to make it smaller. It's already got the class of logo. So I'm just going to uncomment the logo class. There we go, that's the size I want. And the text is black, but the background's black. So let's change the text to have a white color. And I've also set the font size, the padding, and for now I've set the opacity to 0. I'll explain that later. But let's add that prediction class to the p tag. And also, and just trust me for now, just additionally add the show class to the p tag. So there we go, our application is starting to take shape. One more class I want to add a class to the Ion content directive called padding. So this is a default Ionic class that Ionic provides, and it just adds a little bit of padding around the edge of the screen, around the edge of the Ion content area, just so our text doesn't touch right up against the edges of the screen. So I want to start adding some functionality to our application. First things first, I want to attach our controller to one of the HTML elements just so we can start controlling and orchestrating some of the functionality in the front end. So just copy the prediction controller text. And I'm going to attach it to the Ion content area with the ng controller directive. We want the tapping of the 8-ball to trigger a prediction. So let's bind a click on the image to a function in our controller with ng click. So on a click on the image, I want to call a function called ask on our controller, prediction controller. Let's create the function ask. So we need to get a random element from the prediction list from this array of potential predictions on the top. And then whatever that prediction is, I want to assign it to the scope.prediction scope variable. So to do that, we use the JavaScript math.random function, which gives us a random floating point number between 0 and 1. We multiply it by the length of the array, the length of the prediction list array, and then we just convert that to an integer with math.floor, and then we just get that index from the prediction list. So pretty simple. It just gets a random element from the prediction list and assigns that to the scope prediction variable. And lastly, I just want to bind the prediction scope variable to our text p tag on the screen. So now whenever I click the 8 ball, it generates a random prediction and displays it on the page.